Hello, you're listening to Movie Night. I'm Albert, and I'm very excited to be bringing you today a brand new series. This is part of our Great Directors series. What I've done here is we've chosen a film from some of the people widely considered to be the greatest directors of all time, according to most film polls. Obviously, that's a question of taste as to who you think the best or not, but it's just according to sort of most polls. And this is going to take the form of some quick reviews where just either myself or Ed will be doing it, or some movie night reviews where we'll be doing it together, and just looking at some of the films of some of these great directors throughout the past couple years. So I'm going to kick this season off with a film by Martin Scorsese, who obviously you're all thinking is Sykes from Shark Tale, but he's more commonly known as a director of some of Hollywood's most famous movies, such as Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, or Gangs of New York. But the film I've chosen to review today is The Wolf of Wall Street, which stars Leonardo DiCaprio as the eponymous wolf, Jordan Belfort. Now the film weighs in at a hefty 3 hours long in length, so there's plenty to talk about, and hopefully by reviewing this film we can kind of pull out what kind of director Scorsese is, what kind of film. And I guess the first thing to take from what kind of director Scorsese is, he doesn't make films for the faint-hearted. This film contains essentially all of and anything that would get a film an 18 rating is in this film essentially. So that would be my first point of if you were planning on watching this film, definitely not for the faint-hearted. So the plot essentially is essentially a biopic of Belfort. We meet him when he starts out his career in a Wall Street firm under the guidance of a stockbroker played by Matthew McConaughey. Until that company goes bankrupt, he's out of a job, and he's forced to start from the bottom. And he meets Donnie, his right-hand man, played by Jonah Hill, and they start a company together called Stratton Oakmont, who are involved in small-time scams, scamming sort of people out of money. And this eventually becomes a multi-billion-dollar company, and his highs and lows in the company are profiled in the rest of the film. So, overall, I did enjoy the film. I thought it was a very interesting film. I'm glad I watched it. I thought but I guess before I'll talk about the reasons why I thought it was good later, but I'm going to start first with my problems with the film. My first problem was that I think it's too long. The running time of 3 hours was just too long, in my opinion. There's plenty that could have been cut out. A lot of time is spent establishing Jordan's character, highlighting their excesses. Yes, we get it. He's rich. He takes a lot of drugs. Okay. It does go on for quite a while in certain bits, and I think this could have been cut down quite a bit. I've got no objection to a film being 3 hours in length. It can work. There's a lot that could have been cut out of this film, and it still would have been a very good film. My second criticism is of Jonah Hill. And I'm not a big fan of Jonah Hill, in all truth. I don't really like any of the characters he's portrayed in the past. I find him quite annoying. I don't find him very subtle as an actor. I find that everything is quite over-exaggerated. I find his voice quite annoying, which is harsh to him. But I think that the role that he plays in the film, he doesn't do it too badly. I just think the role of Donnie could have been filled by somebody else, really. Somebody else who would have done a different job. I was trying to rack my brains thinking of who could fill that role, but it's difficult because I couldn't really bring anyone to mind. But I'm just not that big a fan of Jonah Hill. I can't think of any other film other than this one where Jonah Hill's name appears on the cast list that I would actually want to go and see. But maybe I'm just being slightly harsh there. He's not the worst actor in the world. Yeah, sorry Jonah if you're watching. And my third issue with the film, possibly my biggest issue, is just the character of Belfort himself. I mean, obviously the film is meant to be set up to be a sort of satire of how money doesn't necessarily mean everything, and it's meant to sort of parody the excesses of Wall Street, and it's meant to, I presume that the message that they're trying to get across with the film is that these people are bad and we shouldn't trust them, but that's not the sort of message it gets. It almost makes his life look reasonably attractive. Obviously, I mean, I'm not going to ruin the end, but it doesn't exactly end up fantastic. And his character just came across as a bit annoying sometimes, especially with the treatment of his wife and his kids. Ultimately, you just kind of think he's a bit of a jerk, shall we say, as they'd say in the United States. you do feel, you do like him as a main character. You want him to succeed. At the same time, you don't want him to succeed because you know what money's going to do to him. And perhaps that could be argued that it's an extra layer of intrigue or debate. But for me, sometimes I just thought, this character is such an idiot. I really don't like him. So I think it's interesting how you would examine it. And as I say, that's the reason why I enjoyed it and I thought it was a good film, is because it's interesting. And I guess it's just another point to bring in is about films dealing with how the use and abuse of drugs. A better example, in my opinion, is Trainspotting, which has been reviewed on this channel. If you're interested in that sort of thing, I'd check that out rather than this. This is completely unrealistic in that respect. But despite these criticisms that I've made, actually, I did think it had some good points. And it was funny at points. It did make me laugh. There's some really good dialogue in the film. The scene in the Swiss bank is great. And I really like the Swiss banker character, who's played by Jean Dujardin from the of the artist fame. And actually, I really liked Margot Robbie's character as his wife. And I actually think I would have liked to hear more of her story, like from her point of view. We heard a lot from Jordan, but not necessarily a lot from her. But I guess that's because this film is based on the autobiography of Jordan Belfort, so you basically are almost hearing it from his point of view. And the character that Donnie is based on, I know the real life person that he's based on has criticised the film a lot for not being completely accurate, and I think that is one way of changing it, perhaps seeing more from their point of view. But I think they both did really well, and I of course have to give plaudits to DiCaprio. He carries the entire film. And actually, looking at the Oscars for that year, from 2013, I actually think he probably did deserve an Oscar for it, for Best Actor, probably more than The Revenant. Actually, he does. This is a real tour de force film, 3 hours, and essentially he's in it for vast majority of the film, and he does do a really good job. And so I definitely give plaudits to him. And just looking at the list actually of the films in the 2013 Best Picture, I don't know how American Hustle didn't win that. Should have done, but that's for a different day, different reviewing day. So overall, if I was to give Wolf of Wall Street stars, I would probably give it 3.5 stars, I think, because it does have some issues with it, but overall it is an enjoyable film. I'm glad I watched it. I found it interesting and enjoyable, but it's not the best film ever made, and I think it could be improved. And in terms of, if we're thinking about what kind of director Scorsese is, his portrayal of characters in positions of power is interesting, and his view of what power does to you, I think, is an important theme in his work, and that's sort of what I've teased out from this. And I think I would be interested in watching other Scorsese films, definitely. This film, I like the style of the film and things like that, and I did think it was interesting, as I've said. So anyway, next time in the Great Directors series, I'm going to be looking at a film of Quentin Tarantino's. But which one? Which film? You'll have to tune in next time to find out. Thanks for listening.